go, here we go, here we go, here we go. It is Markets in the Morning. Let's go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Welcome to Markets in the Morning. Today is Monday, April 15th, 2024. This is Markets in the Morning, where we take a look at the price action of the cryptocurrency market, including the Bitcoin price charts and the altcoin market, while getting ready for the United States stock market to open up in the next 2 minutes. We also take a look over there at precious metals like gold and silver and the DXY, or the US dollar currency index. And, well, we'll take a peek over there at any type of financial news and any type of crypto news to get the morning started. Sorry if it sounded like I was a little delayed there. I was looking over at YouTube streaming. It wasn't loading up. But there we go. Now we're all going. I can see myself on the screen. Hey, guys, I hope that you're doing very well. I hope you survived the weekend. We had some wild price action start there on Friday afternoon, kicking off a pretty wild weekend over there in the cryptocurrency market. Things look to have settled down now. So we obviously have a tremendous amount to unpack and to talk about of what happened with crypto throughout the weekend. A lot of optimism coming from this side of the corner now that we've gotten through this. You guys know the last month and a half has been just real tough here. You know, spending a month and a half just being like taking cash position. And then I think the thing that has me so thrilled, I think I sniped the bottom and got it and posted over there on Twitter when it happened. So we'll talk all about that stuff going on out here in the crypto market after we all just spent so much time staring at that 702 retrace that the crypto market had gotten back into, the altcoin market had gotten back into, and then just bam, absolute chaos happening over there in crypto. And man, there's a lot of optimism now. So the last month and a half on this channel hasn't been fun, coming on here every day, talking about concerns and worries and stresses and everything like that. But now we are back, and it feels good to be back. You ever need to pick me up or a little bit of reassurance? Just remember, the blockchain backers got your back. He is back. So let's talk about everything going on in the market. I'm trying to figure out how do we want to start all of this. So clearly, obviously, the last month and a half, the big worry has been back at that retracement level. Things we had been talking about for the past week, of course, was a correction coming in, capitulation, in market sentiment really dying off. What do you know? It happens in a blink of an eye. I was like, okay, I have a couple weeks to kind of build a list and to kind of be like, all right, then I'll figure out what it is that I really want to add to the portfolio. I'll have, some time to be able to do something like that. Boom, Friday afternoon, liquidations kick in. And just so you guys know, those last 2 days, Friday and Saturday combined, that's like the biggest liquidation we've ever seen in the cryptocurrency market ever. Bigger than FTX, bigger than anything else. So that was absolutely crazy to see that happen and to see it happen so quickly. So when things kicked in right there on Friday afternoon, I got into a panic because I was like, I don't have my list ready. I've been sitting here talking about this stuff. I thought I had weeks to be able to do this, and had to start immediately building my list of what I was going to end up buying. But there was things that we had talked about with this correction that made me just kind of really hold off. I mean, I probably, like many, I was real tempted to go full blown in here. But the things we had talked about a lot when we get down to the bottoms of these corrections, and there's multiple reasons why I'm optimistic about where we landed and the reaction that we've seen happen in the market here. But it also goes back to, if you go back and watch the Markets in the Morning and watch the videos from the past week, the things we talked about, what happens when you get to bottoms, right? Is that we get to a bottom and then you eventually have something that looks like it's going to actually be the bottom. And most people are convinced that the bottom is actually in. And we talked in depth about this probably 4 or 5 times last week. However, what typically ends up happening is that's not the actual bottom. And there ends up being one more flash that happens. And what's the thing that we talk about that happens in that next flash? And the one that actually makes the market participants capitulate and not buy the bottom. It's that a narrative comes, right? And we talked all about that all last week. And that when we get down there, there's going to be a bounce. It's going to look like it's going to be the bottom. And then many times we have the next one with a narrative associated with it. And so if you weren't paying attention to what happened, really no narrative happening here for the market to go like this. We just get cascading liquidations and leverage players get completely flushed out of the market. But then we get that one more. And what happens with the one more? Anybody? Iran, right? You had the Iran stuff. You have everybody on Twitter on Saturday afternoon screaming, Iran is attacking Israel. Iran is attacking Israel. Crypto is selling off because Iran is attacking Israel. So we always talk about that stuff of magical unicorn dust, puppet masters pulling the puppet strings, God or a simulation. But we also spent all week saying there's the bounce that looks like it's going to end up being the bottom. Then there becomes the one more that's typically associated with the narrative. And like magic, out of nowhere, the narrative shows up. And it was just absolutely amazing to see that actually end up playing out, to see the narrative happen when it did. It was just a sight to behold. So of course, there's nothing positive about war, all that stuff, right? That's a whole different topic. But we're talking about charts. We're talking about narratives. We talked about things showing up when they do, right? And it did. And that was absolutely mind-blowing to me, even though I've seen this stuff happen a bajillion times, that we're in a simulation. God's already written the script for everything. Whatever it is, somehow a narrative happens, and it terrifies everybody to not want to touch it. And that's exactly what happened on Saturday. So we ended up getting that. We ended up getting the narrative. We ended up getting the push. We got 2 leverage flushes. We ended up having the biggest liquidations that we have ever seen in crypto ever. So positive things, right? And so what are we trying to take away from this? Take away from it. That's an ABC correction that has happened in here for the cryptocurrency market. And the big flush has finally happened. So the last month and a half has been this big worry of a flush coming. It's been this worry of all this stuff happening. Of course, hitting the 702 retrace happening in there. Hasn't been fun coming on here doing that for so long. It's if you guys, for those who have been with the channel just even the last year and a half, it's just been constantly talking about, Wyckoff working our way back up. And, this has been the first time really where I've had to kind of be that other side, right? And it wasn't fun, especially since retail sentiment has been so ridiculously mega bullish back at the retracement level, which is typically what does happen. So if anything, there's a learning experience to take away from all of this, right? Just to remember that we get back here, and that's typically the behavior that always happens, is that extreme risk-taking happens, retail euphoria kicks in, extreme optimism kicks in, and that just is how things tend to go. And we look back, when we look back on it, and then you say, why didn't I do anything? It just, it's the learning experience, right? That's all it is. It's a learning experience to go through something like that. But back to optimism, back to blockchain backer optimism. If you've been missing that, there we go. It's back. So, there's a lot of stuff on the charts that look great. There's some stuff that it's like, on some stuff, right? XRP, ugh. But we'll look at all that this morning, and we'll look at the health of the market and all that good stuff. But there we go. We got the big fat flush. We got the dip, and then we got the second dip that we looked for that comes with the associated narrative. We got a nice reaction coming off of those lows to happen in there. And we have a very standard style correction happening in here. So we'll take a look at just kind of corrections really quick. One thing I talked about on Twitter throughout the weekend, see if I still have it over here, double tap, bull flag, breakout, back test, V bottom, right? And that's very, very similar to the price behavior that we have actually seen happen in here right now, right? So this was obviously a double tap, bull flag, breakout, violent back test. V bottom, right? And that's what's typically associated with these types of things. And the most recent one that we've gone through that was just real clear was like the C19 crash from back in March of 2020 when we had that happen with the United States stock market, where it did precisely that. Let's see if I have that open anywhere. Right there. There you go. For those who have been around for a long time, we've been through these before. This is where you have the parabolic breakout, then things just kind of lose steam, and then you go back in for the extremely violent back test. That is what we have experienced over here. And we get right back into our bull flag. We get right back into that area. We can look at that on Bitcoin throughout past. We'll study past corrections here so you can kind of get a view of what these look like. Let's go to a smaller time frame. All right, so this is a 40% crash for Bitcoin back in 2017. Now, what we've obviously been looking at is this one right in here, right? That's similar to what these drawings. But as we can see, as the development has actually played out, it actually ends up becoming much more like this, in that we got the big violent one rather than the drawn out one. Instead, we get big fat violent one. But let's zoom in here. I'm going to scoot this over here. There we go. So looking at how price is reacting thus far. Again, this is a 40% correction that is happening in here. I believe this is 32% that we've had here. 37, right? So appropriate size, appropriate structure, appropriate behavior. The things that happen in here in these so here we go. Correction, bull flag, breakout, violent back test, right? Correction, bull flag, breakout, violent back test, right? And then it goes on for recovery, for a V-shaped recovery to happen in here. So one way you could look at it right now, it's as if we're doing a recovery of this manner, as if we are in like right around there. We've just kind of fired our way off the lows. Now we've got to settle and we've got to prove that this market can shift its way back up. But just because we've shot our way back up here currently right now, doesn't mean there's not going to be a little bit of work that has to be done in here. So it would make a lot of sense that if over the next couple of days we actually do kind of pull back again in here, but then look for us to try to step back up a little bit higher and then probably pull back again and then attempt to go for it afterwards. But very normal structure to happen in here. Double tap, bull flag, breakout, back test, V bottom. Here's a double tap, bull flag, breakout, back test, V bottom. Does not take nearly as long for it to end up having to do that. It shoots its way up very quickly. But just from a structural perspective of what we've actually done in the market, this looks way more like we actually really do just have straight up correcting. And here, let's do total 3 minus USDT to see that, right? So very, very nice structure to happen in here. ABC correction happening in here. Very violent right back into the bull flag. Right? That's our behavior. Let's see if I can, let me do these. Let's see, instead of jumping back and forth between, you can just get the idea here. Right? So then, boom, the big break. Boom, the big break. Big reaction. Reaction. Now we'll probably settle for a minute. Right? So, I think just from a percentage standpoint, structural standpoint, all the optimistic things have happened and the dust can kind of settle on being extremely concerned. Still the concerns that we have recovery. We have to go prove that we're going to get back up, but it's not like what we've been dealing with for the last month and a half where I've just been on here being a stress basket and a stress ball. So much better to see that happening in there. And so in these types of things, there's several things that could end up happening in here. So whether we just go on and have a fifth wave and that's the end of the market, or is it actually where we're going to go for pure parabolic insanity here in the crypto market afterwards. We'll address it as the time comes. The very first step that we have in this market is going to be clearly getting back up, having to go through that process in there. And many times these processes look something like this. And then going up. And we got to get through here. And then once we get through there, we can kind of take a look at everything to see, how excessive does this thing seem like it wants to get. Now, I posted over there on Twitter when this was all happening. So took a screenshot too, because I have one guy who's made over 100 accounts on Twitter, and he's just my number one fan. It's it's crazy. But now he's got a screenshot for himself. But at $227 billion is where I made my entries. It was unbelievable to see the clarity of it when it all happened, the associated narrative and the price levels for it to happen at. As we are back here, I have to take 20% off of these entries now that they are up 23% to set a stop loss below here. This is money that's now being re-entered back into the market. We shouldn't go below here. This should be the bottom. This should be it. So taking 20% off of these entries that are up 23% on average with a stop loss set below here to make these entries risk-free that have happened in here. So there you go. That trade entry has been completed. There probably will be more trades entered that will actually have wider stops happening in here. If we get a pullback in here, I will probably make more entries, which will have an even wider stop. They won't be as beautiful as these ones in here, but I will probably re-enter. I got about 50% of my funds in. I didn't get it all. Got about 50% of my money entered, and if we can get back in here, I'll go ahead and try to enter the remaining of it that I'm wanting to enter into the market on a pullback down in here if it goes back to like around 250, 255. Okay. Ethereum. We talked about Ethereum last week, right? It's hard for me to remember. I do believe it was in Markets in the Morning. There's the YouTube members live stream that happened yesterday as well. Asked about the Ethereum price and where Ethereum would head to. During all of that action that happened in there, here was another confluence event. This was the price level that we talked about for Ethereum here in the 28s. We end up getting right down to it during the liquidations that end up happening, the double liquidations that happen where we have the confluence of the altcoin market happening right in here. We also have the confluence of Ethereum getting back to that price level as well at the same time. So multiple events all happening at the exact same time. So fantastical. As for Bitcoin, Bitcoin continues to just hold in here, right? So this is still the thing about Bitcoin is that this is where all the market just went to, and Bitcoin did not. So every narrative will get perpetuated to say why it didn't. ETFs, of course, being the thing in sound money. But the thing we'll watch for on Bitcoin is a Wyckoff structure to happen in here, or if it can get a more clear C leg to finish itself in here. So Bitcoin, very interesting to see it continue to hold. As we know with Bitcoin, Bitcoin is at that 4.236 from 2018. Still unable to get through there, but we'll keep our eyes on it. I'm going to leave that to everybody else to do their Bitcoin predictions up in there. But this looks like Wyckoff. The big question will be if this is accumulation or distribution, and I don't think we have enough in here just yet for me to scream which one, right? Like even with the altcoin market, it took a little while for something very clear to show up and say, wait, this is what ABC corrections look like happening in here. And then we were able to talk about it all last week. I don't see it yet for Bitcoin. So if it shows up, great. If it doesn't, so be it. But either way, this one right here, absolutely fantastical. So get back in there. Very classic ABC of sheer and utter violence. There we go. All right. So there we go. Moving along. So Ethereum holds in here. Like we stated, 20% has been held. We shouldn't be taking out lows. If we take out lows, we'll have another thing to hold a look at. Others. There we go. We talked about that. XRP. We'll talk about XRP right now. This one is tough, man. You've got so much clear structure happening throughout the whole market, yet XRP just cannot do anything except stay within a range. This is the first time in And like it was just this one wick where it happened, right? First time in a year and a half where we see like lower lows getting printed over here on XRP. The problem with it is you have to say, is it lower lows or is it a continuing range? And the read on this right now is very tough. So questioning on being, do we have lower lows or do we have a continued range happening in here? One thing we don't have is a trend. We don't have a trend happening here at all. This read is incredibly tough. And the confidence level of today is not incredibly high on which is happening. It's not for me. I'm talking about for me. You know, the ideas that I've played with, right? If it's not doomsday, right? If it's not doomsday and it is still a continued wave E, what would have that have been? Like how could we have had something like this happen if we were still ranging in a wave E? Right? Because that's what we've talked about, that you would be like this, right? ABC, 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 and then you need to be in ABC. And what is wave E supposed to be, right? So we'll talk about this. This is what a contraction is, right? Right? So wave E is not. So here you go. This is what you're supposed to have: ABC, 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 and then on your last one, it's not an ABC correction. It's supposed to be, again, another contraction, A, B, C, D, E, right? So what would it have to be? You'd have to say, well, one, all that's wrong, and it's not a contraction. It's just doomed. Two, it is a wave E, but to assume that this was wave D was wrong. And that this wasn't wave E. Right? That has to be what it is. It's one, either doomed or that was wrong. Right? So what would it have to be if it still remained bullish? If it still is this, if this is still true, if it still is a contraction happening in here, what does it have to be? It would have to mean that. Right? Again, that's why I'm saying there's a little humility here and humbleness to this, because this read, it's difficult. So what would that have to mean? That would have to mean, can we find anything to say something can look like that for a C wave, where you can just go slam back down into the lows again with complete and utter violence without exceeding wave B over here? And that's where you do get a look over here at Bitcoin, right? And so that is what this is, right? This is an A, B, C, D, E, and then it ends up going, right? And so it's having to assume those being the same things, and essentially that everything that has happened here, right? This is all ABC, right? Like you have in here, and then you slam back down into the lows a second time. So what has to happen for XRP at this point? It needs to keep shifting up, right? And right now, just for the trend liners, who are just trendline lovers, you have all of your reasons to look at your trend lines and be like, yuck, yikes, you're underneath all of them. And so this one's a tight watch right now. This is the first time to get a daily low. This clearly wasn't wave D and E. And now it's whether or not it can go on. This thing has been an utter nightmare, which everybody will agree. And here we are now, 9 months after legal clarity, and there has been no trend at all on this thing at all, and still stuck in the exact same range that it's been in since. So I sure hope it can prove itself. So right now, the thing is to see that we aren't going to break any lower than where you are right now, and for that to continue on in there. So we'll watch that thing manifest, but definitely disappointing on that one, especially when we have very clear stuff happening throughout the market elsewhere. Disappointing to see it on there because it just, again, reiterates there is no trend here on this thing at all. What's positive? Okay, let's step back and what's positive, right? There is one chart that's positive, and that has reached its bottom. XRP versus Bitcoin. It is at historical lows. It is on the support levels at historical lows. And that liquidation got it all the way down there, closed any gaps that there are in there. There are no more gaps to close for XRP versus Bitcoin. And the level of oversold over here, it is pretty dang oversold. So you're at support levels versus Bitcoin. You are massively oversold on the weekly time frame, hence would also contribute to sentiment of altcoins versus Bitcoin. You are at the most oversold levels in history versus Bitcoin there with XRP. So you are at a historical support level that even held after the SEC sued Ripple back in 2020. So there is that going for it. Otherwise, lots of optimism throughout the rest of the market. We'll keep our eyes on these corrections to talk about these things as they manifest themselves. First things first, though, there's probably going to be some pulling back in here. There's going to be some working out in here. So the next week or so, kind of watching these structures to make sure we get some really clear things starting to emerge in here after getting a nice ABC correction to finally manifest itself from the market. It's a long month and a half. Thankful to finally be through it. That wasn't fun for me on the YouTube channel, and there's things that I don't share with you guys, but I get to see a lot of other metrics, and I knew that you guys didn't like hearing it. I knew you didn't like hearing it, and there was comments in the last week just being like, yeah, I just kind of stopped watching because it kind of didn't want to hear it, and I understand it because it's not positive. Everybody's got this positive energy. Everybody's singing Kumbaya, holding hands. We're going to the moon together, and here's this one guy being like, hey, you know what? This isn't great. This isn't good. And, I understood that, but I kept perpetuating it. But all the numbers on the back end of everything that I had, everything was tanking in regards to numbers as being a content creator during a moment like that. And of course, you got all your other content creators who are taking that opportunity to try to posture against me and retail and corral retail altogether into being mega bulls. And, well, you saw how that just panned out. But that's not the case anymore. We now have the optimism to look back on. We now have the things to look forward to for things to turn their way up. And now that phase is gone. I hated it. It was no fun. I'm glad to be beyond it. I'm glad to not have to be such a worrywart there now. Now we're actually looking for positive things in the market. So welcome back. All right, there we go. I think that's it for crypto. Oh, here we go. We got a lot of people talking about dominance. So I figured we'd talk about the safety trade dominance that's happening in here. We have interesting things that have developed in here from the progression. Again, of course, everybody looks at the Bitcoin dominance. We talk all about those things. You look when you subtract Ethereum, when you subtract the stable coins, you get an entirely different picture of where dominance is. One of those things we, of course, have looked at has been the safety trade dominance, right? So this is Bitcoin dominance plus Ethereum dominance along with USDT and USDC. We've been watching this thing for almost a whole year since the peak of this actually did come in back in June. And so one of these things that we've actually just witnessed was actually a pretty pivotal moment because this thing actually has followed along ridiculous, and we've kind of just been sitting around waiting, and finally it's time to actually give it a little bit of attention once again after not talking about it for a few months. But all phases of this thing have actually been, that was a giant circle, have been incredibly identical to what has happened in regards to the safety trade dominance in the past, where all phases have happened in here. And then the big pullback, and now this whole big move takes us right back up. And then what was the next phase of what happened in here? the drainage of the safety trade once again. And so this actually became the time for the altcoins once again at this point in time forward. So there we are again. So we'll probably bring this thing up here over the next couple of weeks. How did this thing behave in the past? Drift, likely not incredibly quickly, but drifting back down to the lows, then the fall. The thing we will be talking about when the time comes, right? And so these are things that we talk about ahead of time, and it's just like this, and to kind of prepare, like make a mental note of it, that all this time leading up to here, we talked about when we got back to the retracement level, we would see retail euphoria, we would see extreme risk taking, and that would just be bulls, right? That's what we always said it would be like. Once we got back there, it was absolutely like that, right? When this happens, we will keep a close eye on it at that time, because this would be, if we just continue to follow this thing, which we have for a lot. We've followed it for a very long time to still continue that safety trade. But one thing to monitor, if we get down in here, and if you're going to still remain long crypto at that time, it may be time to tighten up the ship a little bit and tighten it up into Bitcoin at that time. Okay? So thinking about that if we do end up having that and we drift all the way down in here, there may be a time where it's time to kind of tighten it back up into Bitcoin. And so when we get there, if we're talking about that, don't be surprised by that at the time. But again, it's probably going to be the same behavior again, just like we actually saw up in here. We talked about it for a very, very long time about getting back to the retracement. We nailed the 702 retracement. People didn't care. So expect what always happens. At the bottom, what's everybody doing yelling at me? At the top, what's everybody doing yelling at me? When we get there, I have a feeling everybody will be yelling at me. So, we'll talk about it when the time comes. All right, there you go. Beautiful slam right back down into there. Again, like we were just talking about, do I still have the Dow up in here, right? This is just like our double tap bull flag back test that slam right back down into the bull flags. Now we're looking for a recovery to come out of there and for the market to be able to recover. If you missed the first half of the stream, to get the correction, of course, the correction coming as fast as it did was an utter surprise to happen, but totally a very classic Bitcoin style correction to happen, even happen in the whole market. But these are corrections we've even seen in Bitcoin in the past before, where it is incredibly violent to happen, unlike the one that we're really modeling after, right? This modeling, where are you? All this modeling is really based off of this one, and we actually got the violent one to happen in here. So fortunately, it looks just like what they typically do. We got the thing that we actually looked for and talked about a lot about all last week. We talked about when structures happen, what happens is the initial bounce comes in here. People do become convinced that is the bounce, and then what happens after? We get the bigger one. We also get it associated with a narrative. Everybody's terrified to buy it, right? All last week, that was the discussion of what we had. What did we have happen on this one? It's like magical unicorn fairy dust, puppet masters pulling the puppet strings, God or simulation. What do we have happen? Iran. You can't script it any crazier. You can't script it any crazier to talk about. A narrative will show up on that one, and then we actually get it 48 hours later. Truly, truly amazing. But anyway, that is a ridiculous amount of rambling about crypto. Optimistic BCB has now returned. Now that we have finally gotten through this, that was a long month and a half. That was trash. It wasn't fun. I'm happy to be through it. Now we can get back to business. As for Bitcoin, though, of course, we'll just kind of let that thing continue. As for the Dow Jones, as for the stock market, we haven't even touched topics on it yet. Of course, stock market's been pulling back for the last 2 weeks. Hey, what do you know? Stock market pulls back, crypto pulls back. That's weird. Weird. Dow is up 319 points today. A lot of sigh of relief in there throughout the weekend, as traders, of course, were nervous that we would see the stock market collapse this morning after what happened with Bitcoin throughout the weekend. Gold is slightly up about $2.38 with silver up 64 cents. So there's still, Friday was absolutely crazy over there in metals. Let's see if we can pull it up here. Friday went nuts over there for gold, and it went nuts over there for silver, with gold getting as high as $2,430, but right before the close loses about $100 off the spot price. Silver pulled back at the exact same time as the week came to a close. We had this line we were talking about there Friday morning about if silver was able to close here above 29.13, that'd be the highest daily, weekly closes that we've seen for silver. Boom, right before the close ends up happening, that thing just goes rap. Not today. So boom, right back down below it before the close came in. People were expecting this to act pretty violently this morning with the geopolitical conflicts going on out there in the world. People expected that silver and gold would be skyrocketing. Hey, 57 cents is nothing to bat an eye at over there on silver. But gold, it's flat. It's up 14 cents. Not a big change over there. I think the surprise the most. Stock market's actually up. So Dow up 298 points. S&P up 40 points. NASDAQ up 142. All up just a little bit under 1%. The leaders of the morning are NVIDIA, GE, United Health. Losers are Tesla, Apple, and ARK. Otherwise, a little bit mixed, but mostly positive. Yields, wow. Yields are up this morning. So you can see it is that a bear steepener? Let's take a look at it. Long duration yields are way up. Short durations are up a little bit. So there you go. DXY 106.12. Uh-oh. DXY closed at 106.01 last week. And then we get the chaos to erupt in the market. We've talked about 106 before. We've seen confluence of 106 have behavior historically, and we've seen it now. So yikes, we'll see if this thing has signal now. It's been a weird market with gold taking off and being into its all-time highs while the DXY has been rising. Historically though, yikes, and we did see it throughout the weekend. So we'll see if that thing keeps going and keeps going for a breakout. But somehow you actually do have the Dow Jones Industrial Average up this week, but yuck. There you go. But somehow you also have precious metals up. All right. Moving on over there to the financial news of the morning. Retail sales jumped 0.7% in March, which was much higher than expected. The Dow futures rebound by 300 points as strong retail sales and earnings outweigh the Iran-Israel conflict. Trump media shares plunge after company files to issue additional DJT stocks. Goldman Sachs tops first quarter estimates fueled by trading and investment banking. That's right. We are now in earnings week. So, $1,000,000 question. Will we see any of these companies announce in their earnings calls that Bitcoin was added to their balance sheet via the ETFs? It'd be an interesting week to see if there is some type of narrative that comes along. Otherwise, financial news pretty timid. Of course, everybody's focused on the Iran and Israel conflict to see if that's going to have any impacts. Looking over there at crypto news, Solana's mainnet beta update aims to resolve congestion issues. $70,000 Bitcoin price by the halving? Question mark. 5 things to know in Bitcoin this week. Alt season on the horizon. SEC targets Uniswap and Bitcoin halving news. Hodler's Digest. TradFi firms now prefer public blockchains. Ex-Grayscale executive. Only 6 altcoins in the top 50 have outperformed Bitcoin this year. That's not true. That's not true. All right, Bitcoin knows. Oh well, maybe after the 2-day plunge, they picked their timing to do it. That may be true with what happened over the weekend. That may be true. Bitcoin nosedives as political tension escalates in the Middle East. Bitcoin's normal drop leads to $256 million longs liquidated. Bitcoin's normal drop leads to $256 million in longs liquidated. Maybe they're just talking about specific Bitcoin liquidations. I'm not sure, but it was like back-to-back 800s. It was big. SEC breaks from the past policy guidelines in Uniswap crackdown. Okay, we've already got that one. Bitcoin miners could dump $5 billion in Bitcoin after the halving. What? Okay. Bitcoin and Ethereum rise as Hong Kong Bitcoin ETF applicants say they've been approved. So rumors swirling that Hong Kong has approved Ethereum and Bitcoin ETF applications. So see about that. Bitcoin halving has crypto miners racing for an epic sat, potentially worth millions. Bitcoin's once every 4 years halving this week may be very different from those of earlier epochs, typically hum-ho affairs, now an intense competition underway. Let's look it up. What's the clock say we're at? Still says April 20th. All right. No, the 19th now. Okay. On the 19th. Okay. All right, there you go. That's your news. As for rate cuts, none. You get none. Market has priced in no rate cuts until maybe one in September, and that being the only one of 2024. We have watched this thing change drastically throughout 2024. Who knows if any of that's true at this point? Current expectations for the May 1st meeting are a 96.9% probability that the Fed will remain paused. Be very interesting to see what they have to say. And this one, no, will we miss this one? Oh my gosh, I might not be here for that. Uh-oh. We'll miss another one. We'll check it out. We'll check it out at the time. Otherwise, there you go. Rebound in the markets. If you missed everything we talked about, I'm not going to go through it all again. We'll hop into the chat, and then I'm going to be recording a video today to get it out by this afternoon. Otherwise, we'll hop into the chat, guys. Hope you're having a wonderful day. It feels good to be past all of that stuff. That was a long month and a half to go through. Oh, forgot to mention. Newsletter out today. So I'm excited about this one. I've been doing stuff on the back end. If you ever hear people over on Twitter saying, I'm bullish on base, and you've ever been wondering, what the heck does that mean? I have been diving deep into it, and there is no question people are flocking to this thing in the groves, and likely it will continue that way. So meme coins, trading, NFTs, decentralized finance, the numbers prove it. This is the trend and the direction the market are going in. There's a 24-minute audio recording in this. I highly suggest you check this out to see this is the trend that the market is going in. This was published this morning. Do not sleep on that. Do not sleep on that. If you are subscribed, I would suggest you go read it. I have definitely played in it. I've played in the DeFi. I've played in the swaps. I've played in the NFTs. And the figures show it that base is growing massively rapidly. And if you find yourself sleeping on that one, you may be running with the herd later. So go take a look at that. That one's published this morning. This one's been in the pipe for a couple of weeks now to get this one out and to get this discussion going. So check that out over there on blockchainbacker.substack.com. That was published just a couple hours ago. All right. Otherwise, we'll hop on into the chat and then we'll get on our way and I'll get a video going. XRP Bullish gifted 5 BCB memberships. My brother, thank you so much. I see Fabian saying Solana has a lot more activity than base, FYI. Yeah, of course, Solana is established, but have you seen the trend on base? Ignore it all you want, man. Ignore it all you want. You sleep on that all you want, dude. You go for it. XRP Bullish gifted 5 BCB memberships. Man, thank you very much. Mod Barber, hey BCB, XRP broke 48. Is there any TA to support any run to all-time high or retracement to previous all-time highs? PS, since April 23 till now, a total 2 is up 60%. XRP 0. Yeah, XRP. Yeah, well, we have pretty much already talked about that. Sure is. One of the worst performers in crypto. Pat, my brother, thank you so much, man. Dale Can't, he gifted 10. Thank you, Pat. Miss you, Pat. Haven't heard much from you, man. I got to hang out with Pat a whole lot when I was in Australia. It was a lot of fun. Dokansky says, how is the E-Wave looking? Oh, we already went through that. Thank you, brother. Dokansky, man, your photos crack me up, man. When you DM them to me, thank you, Jonas Fugalis. Hi, do you think Tia made its second wave of 5? If this is true, yes, we should be seeing bottoms happening everywhere. If this is our true bottom, which good chance there is. I've gone ahead and plowed money in, and I bought some Tia, right? But like I mentioned earlier in the stream, taking 20% off the table, stop loss below, it makes the trade risk-free. That was a bottom snipe. That was a knife catching snipe. Do not advise to anybody to try to do a knife catch if you don't know what you're doing. This happens to be one that I'm very familiar with, which is why I did it and why I posted it publicly over there on Twitter. Normally, you are not going to catch me taking that type of social risk to post over there on Twitter and catch a falling knife if I'm not incredibly familiar with what I'm looking at. And this is something I'm very familiar with, and I've made many videos on it of double tap, bull flag, breakout, backtest, V bottoms, violent backtest, V bottoms, and what they actually look like. And so I really knew what I was looking at here when I saw this and took the snipe on it. It has panned out so far, but I do have to take 20% off here with the stop below here because we shouldn't be setting a new low, right? So we should be seeing bottoms forming throughout the market in the event that this is correct. Oh, member for 10 months. Brother, thank you. Jack, 29 months, says, I need to do my emotional log before watching your videos. I always feel better post BCB video. Hi. I'm glad I get to be that again. I'm telling you guys, I've hated the last month and a half. I've hated it. I've hated it because not only, like, in my mind, having this big fear of price falling, then the whole world's disagreeing with you. Then you got all these content creators posturing against you. And your own audience, you know, not happy with talking like that. I'm happy to be beyond it. I'm happy to be back in the saddle of where I want to be post this moment. It was very, very uncomfortable for the last month and a half. I'm very happy to be beyond that. So the pick me up and reassurance guy, we're back, baby. Bread Garlic House, thank you, brother. Are you planning to liquidate your XRB holdings, BCB? Thank you. No, it's a long term. It's the one that is just the long term set aside. Hold on to it. Zero or hero. That's not for everybody. Kev, does Arbitrum need one more leg down to bottom and form a bullish divergence? I don't think anything necessarily does if this is true, right? Each altcoin is going to have its own individual liquidity issues, but I don't... Arbitrum's even had a better reaction so far than a lot of these have, right? So you already have it. But typically in bottom formations, you still have this trash to go through first, right? And so what happens is, like, understanding the psychology of markets and market participants is, like, we knew that they would get euphoric. We knew that extreme risk taking would come back here. You get a moment like this. It happens so fast. It happens so abruptly. Every time we have one of these things that happens so fast and happens so abruptly, there's a psychological kind of, like, what are the phases of grief, I think is what it's called, right? The first is kind of shock, disbelief, denial. And then comes, like, the other phases of it, like we see in market cycles. Then comes the anger, the frustration, the depression, the despondence, and all those different things. And so, like, that would be what these phases then become, right? Then, all the people who were very bullish 2 weeks ago now start posting all their bear charts and 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 their bear charts, and then we're all going to die. That's the stuff that typically comes next. So sentiment shift, but it's got to kind of waddle a little bit. And that makes sense here from just the things we're talking about in here, that this is a nice quick reaction that we've seen off the lows happen in here for the market to get the quick reaction. But it doesn't mean moon yet. There's still stuff that has to happen in here, and this a lot of times can be the sentiment deterioration that happens throughout the market here, right? And to say we know sentiment here, I think we know sentiment pretty well. We watched the sentiment all throughout here, knew it. We knew the sentiment would become euphoric in here. We hit the 702 retracement. How many people know the 702? You know it can reject, you know it, but you just got so bullish, you just denied it as a possibility of being able to happen, right? Because everybody around you is so euphoric and happy and excited. Boom, we have it. We now becomes the denial, the shock, the disbelief, and then eventually comes the despondence and the anger, frustration, and all that kind of stuff, right? And that this kind of just puts us where we're at. Then things happen. Do narratives show up? Does all that kind of trash start to show up now? And thinking from it that in that manner that we may have some narratives arrive, but really that this thing would probably just have to bounce around in here for just a few minutes before it can go. Man, happy to be through all that for sure. Okay. Is this XRP low similar to the 2020 SEC lower low? Yes. Big Aura. Hey, BCB, how do you think the masses will contribute to Base and or Solana? I'm not sure. As easy as Coinbase is for Base, they will know how to use. Right. And that's the thing about Base. Right. And if you look at contract deployments are skyrocketing. User activity levels, development. Right. So the thing why lots of people kind of get confused when it comes to Base or when it comes to Solana, that with Solana, they're like, oh, I can buy Solana token. Right. Base, you can't buy Base token. Right. You have to participate in the actual ecosystem that's happening with Base. There is no Base token to buy. Essentially, what is Base? It's Ethereum, right? So essentially, it's Ethereum. It's just not called Ethereum. It's called Base, but it's Ethereum. And so you're pretty much moving Ethereum on the layer 2 network, which is Base. But Base is blowing up. And we write all about it in here. And it's got everything that people are looking for. And the reason why it's so interesting at the same time is that, one, the metrics all prove it. That's why I say the numbers prove it. It's easy and the numbers prove it because I've been playing with it. I've been playing with it for a while now. This is where the masses are going to get fed to. And the numbers are already showing that they are. It is blowing up and they've got everything. If you are on Solana and you like going to Dex Screener and you like putting in your contract and you like trading memes, that's on here. If you like NFTs, that's on here. You like easily accessing DeFi, it's on here. It's all on here. And again, I'm not paid by anybody. I could tell Coinbase to go blow one up their backside. It doesn't matter to me. Coinbase can take it up the backside. I don't care, right? It doesn't matter to me. I can say whatever I want because I'm not sponsored by these guys. But if you want to see trends of what is actually happening, this is where the market's moving. And if you don't understand it, that's also the point of this too. For many people, what I just said right there, the Dex Screener and putting you have no clue what that means. I'm guaranteeing 90% of the people who are listening right now have no clue what that means. And that gets simplified in here. If you're wondering, how are these people buying these meme coins? How are these people doing this? That's explained in here. There's going to be more elaboration on this topic as well. But this is the trend. And this is where Coinbase is going to feed their entire user base to. And the numbers are already showing they're rapidly heading towards it right now. So, yeah. Okay. I see BCB crashing structure, which indicates last flush. So what you see is this, right? So you're seeing this and you're thinking, it's got to go down one more. I see what you're seeing. One, it's why I have to take 20% off the table. with a stop below to create the risk-free trade. But I find it unlikely to happen because of the events that already transpired, in that we got the things that we were actually looking for in regards to the crash, people assuming that it actually was the low, and then we got the new low that was also associated with the negative narrative, and the thing that scared people to be able to buy it, right? We all saw it on Wednesday, right? That's what the headlines, that's what everybody blamed the price action on. Everybody blamed that fall on war, right? It was perfect. That scares people from wanting to buy it because of uncertainty and the unknown. That is exactly the thing we talked about all last week. I don't think you're going to get that narrative like that again, where people feel scared, uncertain, and don't want to buy it because they're scared of the narrative. I don't know if we're going to get that again. And we had talked about it all last week. That's typically the thing that happens in there, and we already got it. So, right, what do you see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you're back at the wave 4, right? So I'm taking 20%, stop below low. I doubt it because of what we've already seen, but your point is heard. Crypto Samurai, do you see an Elliott structure that comes back and retests these recent lows? Thanks for all that you do. Well, in any Elliott wave structure, when you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you start impulsing to the upside, the rule of wave one is allowed to literally go all the way back down to the start, or excuse me, wave 2 is allowed to literally go all the way back down to the base of the beginning of wave 1. So that is Elliott wave theory, is that this particular wave actually is allowed to come all the way back. However, there's no rule on where it has to land in between. And it can literally come all the way back. And we've even seen that stuff happen in crypto before. So do you see an Elliott wave structure that comes back and retests these recent lows? Thanks for all that you do. That rule, if you go read Elliott wave theory, and I discussed that on bcbacker.com, which was recorded almost a year ago, that wave 2 can come back down to the base of wave 1. So you don't really get anything very strong for wave 2. Albertus, bro, do you put any weight on XRP dominance chart? No, because like we talked about last week, XRP does one thing and one thing only, and that is moves with the rest of the market. So, if XRP was like in a long-term trend of swallowing market share, would be something that we look at. Otherwise, the price action of XRP has to be treated like any altcoin out there, that its mega trends are going to occur with mega trends of the market, and that's it. And people don't like hearing that because it doesn't suit the narrative that they have built in their mind. But when I showed that information last week, when I was showing the presentation that I delivered in Australia, it's so clear as day that the data unequivocally proves it, that the price action of XRP's bull runs are 100% tied into expansionary phases of the altcoin market, expansionary phases or distribution phases of Bitcoin, and those are the only times. So, no, I don't put any thought on the actual dominance of XRP. John D, thanks for being honest with yourself and your subscribers. John, thank you, brother. Dude. We made it, and I don't know how we did this in 58 minutes. That's what's up. That is cool. All right, well, cool. Guys, check out the newsletter that was published this morning, right? I'm back to being the optimistic guy. I'm back to looking for trends, and that's what I've been doing for the last month and a half, is saying, where are the trends heading in this market? I've been real worried about price action, but where was I going to focus on? Should we get a big correction to show up in here? We've gotten one. This is the trend that is really starting to emerge. We'll monitor it as it goes on. Base is blowing up. If you're not familiar with it, I try to explain it in easy to understand ways. TXMC has come on to help with the newsletter. In the past, we've done some really extensive ones when it comes to user activity levels, developer activity levels. I had the help of the Real Tweak over there, Cash Me Outside. putting together all those numbers, it's nearly impossible for me to be able to do all that by myself and still be able to create YouTube content. As you guys know, for the last couple of months, YouTube videos have cut back drastically. And I needed to make some changes in order to be able to do that. So I've had help gathering data and help with contributions. This thing, of course, my fingers are still interwebbed in this entirely. Lots of writing that happens in here. All audio and voice recorded by me in topics. But it's very nice to have additional help and to grow this and to add more value to the newsletter. Probably going to be a name change to it too. We need to make it like Blockchain Backers Super Mega Awesome Report. Rather than this newsletter, I think it's the direction it's going to end up going in, turning into more like a report or a alpha center. I don't know. It's going to be something different than that. So check out for a name change coming pretty soon, but I'm glad to be able to add more value. No change in price, but adding more value over here to the newsletter for you guys. That was published there this morning, 24-minute audio voice recorded by me, and enjoy it. Otherwise, you guys can, of course, check out bcbacker.com with over 40 videos and 11 hours of content teaching you how to set up your own charts, indicators within TradingView and CoinTrader Pro. PTW says, Alex Smith, I missed you, brother. Where are you? There you are. Are you more worried about XRP now or the announcement of the SEC lawsuit? The announcement of the SEC lawsuit was bad, bro. Like, the structure of the chart is disappointing for XRP. With the SEC lawsuit, it was like, oh my, that was no one had ever been through that before. We were the only ones that had been through that. That was an entirely different animal on its own, entirely. I don't know what can compare with that. I would say the most worrying times still to this day were probably C19. That was a big one. The SEC lawsuit. I wouldn't put this one in that basket of those. But, you know, we're going to have to see developments. We're going to have to see price recovery happen pretty quick on that to show that it's still ranging and that it hasn't done a breakdown. Most of the market looks great. These structures are great to happen in here. But real cautious there on that one. So, all right. It is Monday, my dudes. It's like PTW can't lose. Yeah, she texts me. It's pretty nice. I get my watch blows up and tells me what's going on there. So, okay, there we go. Check out the newsletter. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Blockchain Backers got your back. That guy is back. It feels good to be back. The last month and a half were brutal. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We got 3,000 viewers today. We got over 1,000 likes. If on your way out, if you could hit the like button, it's the best way to support the channel. And I appreciate all you guys for tuning in. So I'll check in with all of you tomorrow. Otherwise, check out the Substack. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this live stream and give it a thumbs up. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor, but if you ever need to pick me up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the Blockchain Backers got your back. Have a great day, everybody. Bye!